Well, going back to, I would say, in the 70s, when Garden City was still just a small rural town, all the retail was basically on Main Street. I guess Campus Drive was, out in the country. Same way with Mary Street. That was it was, when I was going to school in Garden, Mary Street was a dirt road.
Target wasn't there. The strip mall was there. But that Walmart was in the Sears building, and the rest of it was stores. But after that, that was pretty much the edge of town.
I think there's a mentality that you have, whether you've grown up in Western Kansas or you're an implant to Western Kansas, there is a mentality that you need to roll up your sleeves and get to work.
The entrepreneurial and innovative spirit of our community continues even to this day. St. Catherine Hospital is a great example of an organization that, they continue to advance the services they offer to meet the needs of the community and our entire region. They're strategic in their planning and looking at the needs of the community, and that's a trait you see with all of our chamber members and everyone in our business community.
Our members are trendsetters who are not afraid of digging in and doing the hard work. They understand that the secret to success is having that collaborative spirit, and we see that time and time again here in Garden City.
If you look at the topography of this region, you would have to be an extraordinarily brave or ambitious or resilient person to make a go of putting a community in this location. And our founders certainly did that. Subsequent generations built on that entrepreneurial spirit.
Our founders were talking about, let's make sure that we're providing to the masses. Let's make sure that we're selling to the folks 100 miles away, not just the folks next door. And that's really the basis of economic development.
But then understanding, okay, what do we need to do as a group? Not just the public sector folks, but public and private sector folks to meet that goal. What's that look like? And so the challenge, from my perspective, was how can the city use its role to foster that discussion, to get people pointed in the same direction and then be willing to do the work.
The leaders of the community started looking at, how can we get additional retail and really setting that foundation, and how do we grow into more of a regional community and really make us the regional hub of Southwest Kansas, or actually Western Kansas.
I don't think Garden City was in bad shape prior to 2010. There was certainly a period there where there was a lot of available property, some empty storefronts. And so I think the mindset was strong, but some of the economic indicators were a little rough.
So in 2008, 2010, really what we were struggling with as far as Convention and Visitors Bureau and bringing visitors into the community was connectivity. We did have an airport, but we didn't have large airport service.
So for us, I think it was about looking for those things that maybe we hadn't fully capitalized on yet and really pursuing that. So, as a community, we're pretty bold, and I think we had the mentality that, if there's something that we could be doing better or bigger, let's go find the very best partner and make that happen.
The other part was more community related, and that was, if we're gonna grow this economy and we're gonna be a preferred place to live, one of the things that we hear people talk about, not just people that are looking at Garden City as a place to relocate to, but also people that live here already, wanting some of those amenities that they see in larger cities.
We've always had great entrepreneurial folks here. We had really good access to local retail, but we really needed to fulfill that more national retail need, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Our community members needed it, they demanded it, they wanted it. We knew they were driving to Wichita. We knew we had all these dollars that were leaving our community because we weren't meeting that need here. So it definitely rose to the top of the list of things that we needed to do.
It started with another retailer that ironically isn't even in Shulman Crossing. Per the way they operate, they wanted to find another developer to mature an idea on another site so that they could sort of pit the two projects against one another and bring costs down. So in working with that second developer, they came back and said, look, we can't find a piece of property that we can do sort of an anchor store with a couple outlots. about the only piece of property we found is at the corner of Schulman Avenue and the bypass, and we can only buy the whole thing. And I don't know. Do you think you could do a 400,000 square foot retail center? And
I mean, I think that it works to have a mixture of small local businesses with some big name businesses, because those big name businesses is what's going to bring people here. I mean, you're going to get that tourism. You're going to get people who want to come here and shop.
And hopefully they visit those businesses, and then they visit like the downtown businesses and other businesses around our community.
The fact that we have things like Schulman Crossing, I think really impact that. You don't have to be within 30 minutes of Kansas City or Wichita to have the quality of life you want. It really takes all of that working together to make the impact for us to be able to attract and retain the best possible talent we can.
I think when we started experiencing that large retail growth, especially with your larger box stores and things like that, we didn't want to lose that small town feel at the same time. And so the city being as proactive and just always thinking ahead, they said, hold on a second, we've got all this great development happening on the east side, but we still want to hold on to our roots.
There's an old saying in economic development that as your downtown is, so does then tend to be what the rest of the town looks like. So the perception is if your downtown is dying, then your town as a whole is dying. One of the challenges with entrepreneurs or new businesses coming into the downtown areas, typically those buildings are older. So the city had a downtown development fund, which they funded a number of years in a row, which helped offset those costs for those businesses coming in to do those renovations to bring everything up to code. In addition to that, Downtown Vision had an IWW 0% loan fund, also a Jumpstart program. The Jumpstart program allows for reimbursement of retail businesses only as a category of rents, utilities, that sort of thing, at 50% for year one and 25% for year two. So those three programs together have been very useful in downtown, and a lot of the renovation that you see, a lot of the growth that you see, those businesses have all tapped into one or more of those programs.
So we've got businesses where you're there early in the morning for a cup of coffee all the way into the evening because you want something to drink and you want to hang out with friends. And so our Main Street can accommodate that.
That means something to the visitors to our community. So when I'm recruiting new industry, absolutely, I'm going to take them downtown. I'm going to make sure they see we continue to invest in ourselves. We believe in ourselves so much that we continue to invest in ourselves, and our citizenry continues to invest in themselves.
In the mid-90s and the early 2000s, the school district tried 3 times to pass a bond to address challenges at the old high school. We were pretty overcrowded and growing. The building was built in 1954 and I think had been added on to 12 times. So when the board evaluated those options and had to decide, what's the best way to move forward, the administration's recommendation was to build a second high school. But the board, as they kind of wrestled with it, felt like since we'd already tried that 3 times, maybe we needed to take a different look at it. And there was a 4-3 vote by the Board of Education to go with a plan to build one large high school. What was really amazing as part of that process was immediately after that decision was made, the 3 board members that felt like 2 high schools would have been the better choice were immediately on board with the decisions been made to go with 1 high school. And I think really the fact that we moved forward from that point and said this is the solution that we want to promote to the community, and then the community embraced that, and consequently we now have a wonderful facility that fits really tightly with the academic programming and the career and tech ed programming that we do there. And
I think that was really the turning point for our community, where the community was like, education's important, and this really is one of the additional crown jewels that we have. We have a lot of crown jewels in the community, but the high school was really a focus on education. And I think that's one of the turning points in our community, when the community said, hey, we want to be that spotlight, or, that beacon in Western Kansas.
The number one or number two question that a lot of site selectors will ask was, when was the last time you passed a bond issue for your schools? One of the retailers that's now at Shulman Crossing, the developer had brought them in to see Garden City. They didn't think they wanted to see the market, but the developer had been working in a couple other places that they did want to be in. I think Tulsa was one, and maybe Dallas was the other. They said, hey, we're going to come fly in, pick you up, we're going to take you to these sites, but we're also going to go visit Garden City. We went up around the bypass intentionally by the high school, which at this point in time had just been built, and then made the turn at Campus Drive and came back to the south. And the guy was completely sold off of the high school. The vision of Southwest Kansas or Western Kansas being a strong dairy part of the country, the dairy processing plant is really the culmination of having enough of a dairy presence here for that to make sense.
And it made sense to locate that where the dairy cattle are, and you're not transporting milk, which is 70 or 80% water. And so it made more sense to do it here where the animals are.
Plus, we got to save the water, right? We got to pull that water off through a partnership with Dairy Farmers of America. We're able to reuse that water in our community now. And that's huge. That's such a story of sustainability.
Because we had DFA, and because we had this water reuse strategy, we were actually taking their wastewater and viewing it as an economic asset. When we were in discussions with Empirical, they understood how their processes could tie into that as well, and so you can have this, long-term potential of a closed cycle that operates more efficiently, reduces risk, reduces unnecessary relationships with environmental agencies and those types of things. It all sort of runs through the city and its wastewater treatment plant.
We had identified logistics as one of those areas that we knew we could do better in, we could do more in, and we were very excited about the opportunity to do that. As it turned out, call it luck, call it whatever you want, providence maybe, but we meet a couple of guys who are looking to do a logistics field here.
And so they were just going down the BNSF right away trying to figure out where's a site where we could locate this, and they happened to stop in at Wind River and talk to Bob Temple. We had purchased the 50-some, I can't remember exactly the acreage, a year before in advance because we were thinking of an industrial park. And so it just fell into place.
I think the deal closes in like 4 or 5 days. There's rail built for them to the site in like 19 days.
But our county came together, our city came together, but we needed private support on that, right? We needed to use some existing rail that was already there, and that belonged to another private business. They were tremendous. They came to the table, they said, let us know how we can help. We're a community player, and even private industry to the fact of we had to get the ground leveled, and we had to get compaction done, and we had to build rail.
And there's lots of ways it's important. Maybe one that's a little less visible to folks is how important it is for rail transportation. This is a piece of line that Burlington Northern Santa Fe 10 years ago was ready to divest of. It's going from the least successful, least productive rail line to one of the more productive or most productive rail lines.
When you stop and you think about who has been here just in the last 10 years, and it's created a buzz. And that buzz isn't going away. As far as I know, there are still people who are interested in coming here, people who are looking to move here, people who look at Garden City as this is what can happen if we dream and if we work together and if we go after it.
So what's different about Garden City or Finney County is simple to say. It's everybody's pulling in the same direction, but you look at other communities, that's not the case. It's very much a what's in it for me attitude, and if nobody can put their finger immediately on what's in it for them, they're out. And they're not just out, they're probably working against whatever that community goal was. It took all of us pulling in the same direction. It took, to address the housing issue, to do Shulman Crossing, it took not just the city of Garden City, it took Finney County, it took the school district, it took the college, it took downtown businesses speaking up when they had the opportunity to say, look, there may be some stores out there that are in direct competition with what I do, but if it brings twice as many people to this community, I know then that I'm going to get my fair share of that, and that gets me excited about being part of a growing market.
I've never seen a community before where its key stakeholders are so eager to just, advance something for the positive of the community. It's so fun to watch at times, and I don't know why it works, and I don't know that there's a true reason, but it just does, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of.
I think you can take a look at examples all across Garden City to where we're not following the mold. We're not following the norm. We're setting our own bars, and we're taking into consideration that we don't want to follow the norm of what we see.
Finney County is used to being the anomaly, and we take great pride in being the anomaly. Nowhere else in the world, in the middle of the plains, would you have ever expected to have the growth and the hub that Finney County's become.
The one thing that stands out to me the most in working with chamber members and the businesses in our community is the passion they have for what they do and their commitment to this community. We see that drive time and time again, from our largest employers like Tyson to our new members, Scooters Coffee, and the other ones that have opened throughout the years. When someone asks, why Garden City? Well, ask them why not. We all need to be champions of the community and be proud of what we've worked so hard to accomplish, because it is unique. Nobody knows what the next decade will bring, but what we do know is that we are all committed to seeing the community thrive. There's an entrepreneurial spirit alive in Finney County that you just don't find in other places.